Hello, this is Dr. Kamani, licensed clinical psychologist. Welcome to Manifesting Healing Monday, where we have been having very powerful conversations with Black women with the focus on talking about ways to support Black women healing from toxic work environments. So we are having guests come share their stories. We know the power of testimony, and we also know how important it is for women. We are not alone in experiencing toxic work environments. However, we will continue to rise. Even though we have these encounters, we continue to rise. And so my guest today is Ms. Chervelle Bundrige, and I'm so happy to have her here today. The name of this episode is in honor of Fannie Lou Hamer. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm sure so many of us can relate to that. So welcome, Chevelle. If you could just briefly introduce yourself, and then we will go into the discussion.
Thank you so much for having me, Kamani. My name is Chervelle Bundrige. I am a leadership and organizational culture expert. I have over 30 years of experience in organizations of different types and have a wealth of experience from the inside out.
Yes. And I just want to share with the audience how I connected to you. If you have not seen the video where Chevelle was a part of it with Dr. Monica Cox, please tune into that, Stop Playing Diversity. I will put that in the description section of the YouTube channel, Lifting Us with Climb Consulting Wellness Services. But I met Chevelle because a friend sent me a tweet that she did about being in a very toxic work environment in which a white woman was hired as a DEI consultant. And what she thought was a fantastic idea was to have everybody come into the auditorium at the job to watch Roots, right? And so when you said that, I knew I had to reach out to you. I knew I did. And so thank you for being so responsive to me reaching out to you. And, you know, we have also been talking about doing a part 2 to the Stop Playing Diversity panel because it's been so well received. So Chevelle, and, you know, I know a little bit, right? But I just want everybody else to know about, you know, it could be that experience or maybe other toxic work experiences that you've had. And I know that as Black women, there's so many of them. Many times we have a hard time narrowing it down to one or a few. So whichever one or ones you want to share with us, that would be great.
I have sort of a list of, you know, like my top 10. My top 10 out of, I don't know how many, but I'm going to start with one that the very first time I was in a work environment, I was around 17 years old. I had a summer job that was in an office, and I was the only Black person there. I know.
Wow.
This is, I mean, you know, this is in the 70s, in the late 70s. And I was assigned a mentor, someone I was going to shadow while I was there for the summer. And so we would go to lunch together, like we would all have lunch together, the whole team, every day. One day we're having lunch and someone told a joke and it was funny and I laughed and she called me a cute little monkey. This mentor of mine. Yeah.
Wow.
And my immediate reaction was, I was like, it was horrifying because I was young and I really didn't know how to navigate that environment at the time.
Right.
And it was shocking. It was the first experience that I had with, you know, kind of having to react. And I think about kind of the way Jada Pinkett Smith reacted when Chris Rock made that joke and people were like, well, she laughed, you know, she laughed. I didn't laugh, but I wasn't as enraged as I was later. I wasn't as kind of offended as I was later.
And you're in shock. You're young, you're in shock, you don't know what to do.
Shock. And because I was a temporary employee, I was only going to be there for the summer. HR wasn't really an avenue, right, for me at that moment. But they laughed. They thought that was so funny. They laughed. And so that was and
the humiliation of it too.
It was terrible. So that was my first real kind of introduction to, hold on, this isn't just about going to work. You know how like it's like go to work, find a job, do the best you can, work hard, and things will be great. But that was something that really kind of set the tone for me to be more cognizant and aware. And having to
Yeah.
be so young and not really having the ability to kind of grow in an environment that was healthy, where people helped you and, you know, weren't looking to kind of harm you, because that was harm.
Yes, absolutely. And you were totally thrown off guard. And this is your so-called mentor. And
Oh
so
yeah.
that's what makes it just
And then I
so,
had to keep working with her for the rest of the summer.
oh,
So,
oh,
you know, I brought it up to her about a week after it happened, and I said, you know, I just didn't like the fact that you said that. It was offensive. And she's like, oh, I was just joking. And if you told HR, they know me, they know that I joke like that.
wow. So again, brushing off the disrespect
Yeah.
and minimizing how offensive that was. And I see somebody in the chat said, yes, we're often shocked and isolated when this happens. Yes. So you are young, you're 17, you're the only Black person there, and you feel stuck. And you talked about Chevelle also. In the moment, you're so shocked and taken aback, and then everybody's laughing.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really know what to do.
Right.
And then thinking about it later, you say, oh, I should have said, or I
should have said that. And, you know, I felt powerless. And the other thing is, like, I didn't want to tell my parents, because my mother would have, like, really showed up at that job.
Don't do that to my baby.
Yeah, she would have showed up at that job, and it would have not been good. But I was really trying to learn and, you know, pay my dues and all of that. And, you know, I got a quick lesson in, you know, how orgs can really be dysfunctional to the point where things like that are normalized.
Yeah. So toxic. And you also talked about, oh, human resources know me. They know I joke like that.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole system is colluding with the toxicity, right? And then Chevelle too is like, it's your first job, but you said you learned early on that as a Black woman, as you go into work, it's not just about the work.
No.
It's so much more that you have to deal with to even do the work.
And that's so true, because even if you don't encounter something that in your face, you know, you don't, right? You're going to show up every day wondering if things are happening to you because.
Right.
So the stress of that, the stress of navigating voice tone, the stress of navigating facial expressions, you know, having a bad day or a bad week or a bad year, and you come to work, which is a part of your life, and you're really not up to greeting people or smiling all day, or I naturally have, you know, my voice is not a high-pitched voice. I have you know, somewhat of a heavy voice, and I always have. And so, you know, people like it, I had been in situations where I'd be in a meeting and they're like, well, you know, why are you talking so aggressively? And like, well, that was
aggressively.
Yeah. Oh, I've heard that a million times, you know, and then stature wise, I'm like 5'10". Right. So, and I have a very, like, my presence is not going to be like, I'm not going to be wilting when I come in the room.
Right.
So when
I'm not going to shrink for you to feel comfortable. I'm going to express and assert myself. And so just the racial and the gender issues implied upon that. So the stereotypes, oh, she's being aggressive, and why are you doing that? And we'd also talked about this in the other discussion too, the tone policing. So how did you say it? Maybe I could have heard you if you would have said it differently.
Yeah, it's a lot of, you know, and then the code switching thing, to an extent, you know, you have to play that game a little bit, because and I want to talk about that a little bit more, but I think when you talk about code switching and then people are like, yo, you're selling out, you're not being yourself. You know, a lot of the things that we have to do in environments that are not welcoming to us, it's not just because, like, we're not in there just, you know, trying to be the Martin Luther Kings of the organization. Like, we're trying to feed our kids. We're trying to keep we're trying to pay our bills. And so, you know, people are like, you should quit and you should just tell them this, that, and the other. And I'm like, well, you can't just quit.
Right. It's not that easy.
It sounds good. Like, that sounds really good. Like, just quit. But you can't just quit, because even like today, particularly, you have to be able to survive. Unfortunately, we live in this capitalistic system where you have to earn money, right? So you can make a plan to leave and you can understand that, but where are you going? That's
Right.
not toxic for us. Like I want to
Right.
know. Like, I want to go somewhere, and of course, you know, everybody can be an entrepreneur.
Right.
But
Right.
you're going to work in an org, and if you know, if you're going to be around other people who don't try to understand you, there's nothing that you're ever going to do to make them. But what you have
Right.
to do is carve out your lane so that you can
Yeah.
survive, right? So work becomes like a survival like tactic where you have to go
Ooh.
day so that you can live.
Ooh. So basically what you're saying is, as you go into work, you need to arm yourself and be prepared for what you may encounter so that you can survive in the workplace that provides the money so you can survive in life.
Right.
Oh, that's
So
just like such a heavy weight.
it is a heavy weight. And you know, the thing that often occurs to me in organizations is, you know, they want their employees to be loyal, right? They
Uh-huh.
want to inspire this loyalty from
Yeah.
employees. And if we're all being honest, because this is my honesty and my truth is, I work because I need money.
Yes.
I
Yes.
don't love working. I don't love people I have to work for.
Right.
Like I'm making their families rich.
Right.
Right? You want me to love that? Like, I mean, we're
Right.
cool. Like, I'm going to do my job. I'm going to do my best. I'm going to come in here and
Yeah.
do my best. But you're
Yes.
not going to have me like signing documents about how loyal I'm going to be. Like, I'm going
Right.
to look out for myself. I'm going to look out for my family. And I need
Yes.
to be able to say that out loud without being a leper. Like,
Yes.
it's the truth that nobody actually says, right? It's like,
Nobody wants to say it, right? And you also talked about or made reference to if people are treating you bad, why would you want to stay there? You're
right,
staying there out of necessity. And so sometimes
exactly.
it gets too much when we say we got to go. But generally, we're strategizing, we come up with the exit plan, and we go somewhere else. But jobs have to be accountable to how are they treating people and really own up to it. So that woman truly was not owning up to it.
No,
And
she wasn't.
also, yeah, and Chervelle, you talked about how important it is for us to play the game to an extent, but also know how to take care of ourselves as we're playing the game.
Exactly. So you
Yes.
have to, I mean, you know, work-life balance is a great phrase that, you know, that was very popular in the 90s and in the 2000s.
Uh-huh.
And orgs aren't generally really about that. Like they really want to say that, but if you get sick, your child gets sick, your parents get sick, and you need to take time off of work to
Yeah.
tend to things, or your mental health just isn't where you want it to be.
Yes.
Imagine being able to say, I need a couple of weeks off just to decompress. Imagine being able to say that in a work environment where you don't have any vacation time and you can't afford not to get paid.
Right.
It's not the reality. So,
Right.
you know, as I continue through the ranks and, you know, went to college and, you know, came back and started working in organizations,
Uh-huh.
I started to realize kind of that you really learn early on, like there is a game to be played.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And Chervelle, can you share just a little bit in terms of what was it like as you go to college? Because, you know, many of us were told, you know, you work hard, you go to college, you graduate, you do all these things, you know, and you will,
Yeah.
you know, you'll make it and you'll rise up through the ranks and then you'll retire. Like, so we were sold this narrative,
Oh yeah, we
right?
were definitely sold that dream. And my path was not a straight one. So I left high school, I went to college in Boston in the 80s, which was
There's a
a
lot to be said about that,
terrible
right, Chervelle?
idea. I hated it. And
Wow.
I came home after 2 years and then I just started working. Like I just started working. And
Uh-huh.
so, you know, my first few jobs, you know, fresh out of high school, college, um, they were fine. You know, I didn't have any kids or anything. It was just me. So I was able to do whatever I wanted to do.
Uh-huh.
But then the other game started. So I knew I was smart. I know I was intelligent, but then it was like, well, you don't have any paper. Like, where's your paper? You don't have a degree. Like, where do you think you're going? Like, you're not going to be able to kind of matriculate through here. I don't care how smart you are. So that game starts. The game starts where you need credentials. It doesn't matter what your performance is.
Right.
So that's another part of the toxicity, right? The toxic pieces of organizations where they set up these standards where no matter how good you are, the goalposts will move again.
Right. And guess what? And what's so disturbing about it, Chervelle, is many times we have seen people who don't have those credentials and they move right on up.
Move right on up because of who they knew, who they know. You know, that was a rule until you tried it. Right? It was like, well, you didn't need that. You didn't need that credential when, you know, Sally got the job. At the point we got it, it wasn't a requirement. But now it's a requirement, and we're going to need you to do that. So I learned that, and I went through, got my degree because I had to, not because I felt like I needed to, because I had to in order to do what I needed to do.
Yeah.
So, you know, that internal, so let's talk about another example. So I was in a department where I was the only non-pharmacist. It was a internal department that drove the pharmacy product.
Okay.
So I was brought there because I wasn't a pharmacist and I had a different view of the business.
Okay.
There were, you know, some folks there that were like, you know, why is she here? Like, she is not a pharmacist. What are we doing all this people stuff for? I was there to kind of, you know, look at the people component of their operations and understand how they could do better. Their retention. They were having retention problems. So the lady at the time the woman that was the VP at the time was a visionary, and she was, you know, she understood what needed to happen there. She created this whole role and team to try to take that department to another level. So she ends up leaving.
The one that brought you in leaves.
She leaves.
Oh.
Right. Well, before she leaves, she promotes me to the same level as her team. Right. So I'm a director. We're all directors. And they tolerated me. Like, at best, they tolerated me. So when she left, one of my peers then became my boss.
Wow. Now that's a dynamic.
It was wild. And so her and the woman who left were personal friends.
Oh.
Years. Once that woman left, though, it was almost like she was kind of waiting, like in the wings, waiting for her to leave so that she could kind of dismantle all of the things that she was doing.
Wow.
Particularly around the people projects and all of the strategy around, you know, bringing people and keeping people. And one day she came into my office and she said, well, you know, we're going to be doing a reorg. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. It's one of the things other thing that I'm very well versed in. I said, I'd like to look at that if possible, or work with the consulting team. No, need that. So they gave it over to an outside consultant. They came in and they reorged with her help, and every single thing stayed the same except my job was eliminated.
Chervelle, can you see the look on my face right now? Okay.
So,
I mean, I know I can relate to that. And so many other Black women can relate to that. The reorg, right? And then you get pushed out.
They reorged out. 18 years into a career, I got reorged out. And
wow.
It was wild. So she came into my office and she said, you know, we had to go to HR and go through all that. And so I said, well, what happened? You couldn't have a personal conversation with me about any of this. We worked together all these years, whatever. She picked up a piece of paper off my desk, like picked it up. What do you do? I don't even know what you do. I don't know what. Screaming. Like
what?
Screaming to the top of her lungs. She didn't know what I did. She didn't understand why that person put me in that position. No one understood my job. And I said, well, when she was here, why didn't you ask her?
Right.
Now,
Right. Oh, why do you ask me?
What are you asking me for? What are you asking me about a job someone told me to do?
Oh my
You
gosh.
still have full access to her. Call her and ask her why she developed this entire team. Call and ask her.
Right.
Right? But it was easier. It was easier to use me as a punching bag, right? It was easier to punch down now that she was, you know, at a higher level and get all the things that she wanted to say all along. And now she had a chance to say them. So she eliminated the position, and I had 30 days to find a new job, or I was gonna like be pushed out of the org after 18 years. That was gonna be it for me. Yeah, it was wild.
I'm looking like this because of, oh, wow. I see it in the chat. Wow, just wow. I'm looking at that for that, but I'm looking at it because I'm like, are you in my life right now? Because it's so similar.
You feel me. And then
I feel you.
When you are the person who has to take that from someone who is respected in an environment that's set up to be toxic,
right.
They see her as the champion for the culture.
Wow.
Yeah. That's what the values are. Right.
Right. Right.
The values are established to kind of be lean, be efficient, right?
Right.
Cut the fat. So for them, the fat was people initiatives, anything that was going to kind of bring people forward was seen.
Well, actually, Chevelle, it seemed like it was so layered, right? It wasn't, you know, it seemed like that was like an easy out for them to say that, right? But thinking about bringing in a Black woman who's not, you know, who they don't consider to be worthy to be here, and then you're promoted up, it's just like the outrage of it. So it's like we got to push her out in whatever way we can. But what's so disturbing about it is that you were doing a good job, and most of us are doing a good job. So probably good, you know, evaluations and all that kind of stuff. And
of 1 to 4, 1 to 5. I never got below a 4.5 in my career in 18 years.
Wow. Wow. So when you think about that, it doesn't make sense. And many times we sit back and we try to logically analyze why this happened. Like, this doesn't make any sense. I've been doing so well. I've never got a negative evaluation. What's going on? There's so much behind the scenes that we do not know. And so we have to say to ourselves, you know what? It's not even worth it.
It's not. And that's why
it's not worth it.
Work that you're doing. And that's why I'm glad we're having these conversations, because I don't want people to feel like it's just happening to them and that it's what they're doing. Because you're the best of the best. And there are going to be people that are going to have their foot out to trip you all along the way. And it's not anything other than they're intimidated or they're jealous or the lie that they've heard their whole life. The lie that they tell about us. Their faces, and it's not a lie. We're not lazy. We're not unintelligent.
Right.
We're not.
So it goes against the narrative.
So they can't. So that their parents told them and their grandparents told them about Black people, like we're just anything positive. When they see that in real time, it's it's a threatening dynamic.
Absolutely threatening.
My whole paradigm about life changed. And this is actually on my level. No one told me that this could happen to me. That they'd be reporting to me that I never have a peer. That knew more.
And Chevelle, also to be a confident Black woman working in this place, because that's threatening too. So if you're confident, if you're assertive, then the labeling, right? Aggressive, angry, there's all these different things wrong with you. And it's like they're trying to take you down a level and put you in your place, right? So I see in the chat, someone said, that affects our self-worth. Absolutely, because we sit there thinking, that is it something I did? Is this something I did? And we kind of carry that with us. So even once we're out that job, it's still like this lingering thought. We're thinking, did I do something wrong? Is there something wrong with me?
Well, I call it org PTSD. And I think we all have org PTSD. I think we realize how that chips away at our confidence.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
you're smart. Like, you're intelligent.
Yes.
You know what you know, but you will seriously be second guessing yourself. Like, am
Yeah.
I really smart? Or you know,
It's like this mental gaslighting. Yeah. Like, what's going on? Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, what's so concerning too is that you had to have been all that to even get the job. And the fact that you were at that job for 18 years shows that you had worth at that place. But to say, oh, we just decided, yeah, we're going to reorg. And so I think that reorganizations, I think that's a buzzword for how to get Black women out of positions. I'm starting to come to think that.
It's the truth, because they have to, there's a whole thing around, if I'm the only Black person and you're doing something to me, you're going to have to answer to that from an EEOC perspective, right?
Yeah.
So make it something that happened in the organization, right? You reorged, and the only thing you changed was you got rid of one person. How's that even a reorg?
Right. Who happened to be a Black woman? That was just coincidence. You know.
She was my peer, and I couldn't stand that.
Right.
I had to go, and I had to find her. So I
Question, Chervelle. When that woman is like screaming at you with the paper,
yeah.
She wasn't aggressive though, right? She's not considered to be aggressive, right?
She was upset.
Oh, okay.
Our range of emotions, we don't have a full range.
Right.
We're angry or we're silly.
Right.
Right? So
yeah.
That, hurt, dismayed, we don't get that.
Well, we're not really human, you know. It's just like another way to dehumanize us, and so, and then the pressure of trying to find another position in 30 days, or you're out of that job, right?
And
so,
of my reputation and what I had built, there were people there that, there was one lady that looked out for me, and she hired me on the spot.
Awesome.
Found out, and so that was something that made a huge difference in my career. I was maybe 5 years after that. And then I retired altogether, because then it got crazy again. Oh, it got crazy a few times, but the thing that my real departure was another white woman who just felt like she needed to exude power. And so, she was dictating to me to do things that were outside of my personal values.
Oh.
So see, that's another thing. So we all bring what we bring to our jobs, and some of this stuff to lay down. If you can't come to, if you want to be religious, and you got to temper the way that you kind of move in organizations with things like that. But my values, the first one of which is fairness. So you know how hard it was for me throughout my life in organization. Is fairness is my number one personal value.
Right.
To be a person who was asked to change the goals of my team, their performance goals. I had to change, this is a direct quote, change their goals so that they can't meet them because we need to fire them.
No, Chevelle.
New staff without giving people severance. So here's what
my gosh.
I want you to, this is now April, goals have been established in December, signed off on, approved. This person's new, was just there for 60 days. She told me to my face that I had to change the goals for my team, the performance goals, so that 40% of the team would not meet the goal.
Oh my God. So compromise your integrity, basically. Okay. And that sounds illegal, actually, too, right? So do all these different things. Guess what? If something comes back, guess who will be the one who they blamed? Chevelle, right?
So I go to HR. I say, I'm being given this directive that to me feels like a suspicious business practice. Happening was, I thought that she signed some kind of bonus deal when she got brought on to say, I'm going to reduce staff on a time, and I'm going to get a bonus. That's what I'm thinking had to happen, or else I don't know. So I'm talking to the VP of HR.
Okay.
Who told this woman who told me to do that every single thing I said. Mm-hmm.
What?
Yeah. So I went
Wow.
to her office and she said, you know, I know you went to HR, and I'm like, what? I know you went to HR, and there, you know, this is something that we have to do. You need to push your team anyway. So the goals are going to have to be changed.
What?
Yeah.
So again, the system colluding with the system.
Mm-hmm.
So the toxicity just fueling itself.
Yeah. So when
oh my gosh.
like if you're not going to play ball, because when you get to a certain level in certain organizations, right? I'm at the director level, they expect you to be dirty. Like you have to be dirty in order, and that's something that I learned. Like you really have to be able to kind of give up a lot of who you are, your own
Selling your soul. It's selling your soul to the devil.
You do. Or
wow.
you're seeing an outsider, someone they can't trust. And so they see you as someone who they're going to test to see if you'll play the game. And then if you won't play the game, then they work to start to move you out.
Ooh. Yikes. So yeah. with those experiences, and I just want you, everybody needs to hear the root story. Okay, so I'm gonna get to that in a minute, right? Okay. But what I want to hear too is all these very traumatic experiences that you went through in the workplace. Mm-hmm. What impact did that have on you?
Kimani, I will tell you, over the years, you know, from a mental health perspective, I struggled a lot. Like just like I told you with like PTSD from orgs.
Yeah.
Like, I would go into places where I didn't trust anyone for a very long time.
Wow.
I would withhold knowledge and information because I didn't want them to steal it from me or use it against me, or use, you know what I mean? So I couldn't be myself.
Yeah.
You know, I couldn't be myself. And so
it's like you're masking in these job environments.
You have to, I had to mask. And then when you start to get to a place where they kind of expect you as the Black woman, because I've been in situations a lot of my career where I was the only Black person or just a handful of other Black people. You get to a point where they see you as the mule. So you're strong, Chevelle. Like something tragic.
You can handle it.
Like something very tragic can happen to me. Like it's tragic things that happened to me throughout my career, right? I can remember my brother passed away. That was in 2005. Mm-hmm. And I was devastated.
Yeah.
But the way I carry it is not maybe the way someone else carries it.
Uh-huh.
Right? So I needed to come back to work. I didn't want to talk about it all day, every day. I didn't want, we're so sorry. We're so sorry. Like I didn't want that because I needed to kind of stay at work, keep myself together.
Yeah.
And so they just thought, you know, I was fine. Like she's good. She's good. She's not.
Right. And not knowing, Chevelle, how much it took for you to even show up at work every day. Right. So I don't want people to keep reminding me of something that's traumatic also as I'm in this traumatic work environment.
And then last December, my mom passed away suddenly.
Oh, wow.
Which I'm dealing with. Right. And it's those things that you go through in your personal life, and then you work, and people are saying things to you like, "You're strong. You know, you're strong." Like, and I don't hear that being said to white women. I honestly never have, and so that to me is a detriment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because it's kind of like a justification for me. I can keep treating you this way because you're strong, right? And you know what? I don't need to even check in with you because you're strong. And the thing about it is that as Black women, we've had to be strong. We haven't had an option not to be strong. That's just how we have been.
I can't afford to lose my mind.
I cannot. Ooh, that's so dope. Yes, I can't even afford it. Right? I don't have the time, the space. No, nobody gives me permission to just take a moment and to rest. And that's why it's so revolutionary now with all this talk about Black people taking rest in the NAP ministry. It's so revolutionary. And so when you think, Chervelle, that you're going through all these personal traumas, people are saying you, oh, you're so strong, you're so strong. Yeah, I have to be strong.
Yep.
But also recognizing that for you, when is the time that you were able to pull back and say, I'm sick and tired of this. I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
I'm done. Like, what was that moment?
2018, and that situation that I was telling you about where I was being asked to change the goals of my team, and watch them fail so that they could be walked out of the door with no severance, just walked out.
Wow.
That was it for me. And so that was 22 years. I was there 22 years. And so what I did was I went to them because I had a very close relationship with my team, and I always have had great relationships with my teammates. I never saw myself as their boss. I was their colleague. I was the leader of the team, but nonetheless, they were my colleagues. And so I treated them fairly, and I treated them that way. And so I was able to have these conversations with them and be very candid with them about what was happening at my level that they needed to know about.
Wow.
I made sure they all found jobs within the organization before I left.
Awesome.
I then tendered my resignation and I retired.
Wow.
So by retiring, I saved myself from being fired, which is where that's where it was going, because I refused to. They said I was being
So you saw the writing on the wall.
Yeah, I saw it. And so I was going to lose some very lucrative benefits had they fired me after 20 years. So I said, it's time now. It's just time. It's time.
Yeah.
So I resigned in 2018. And when I tell you, I took 2 whole years off, feet on the couch, remote in my hand, watching my husband go to work and come home.
So you had true liberation, right? Yes. And so, Chervelle, in terms of, that was so traumatic. You just said, I just cannot be a party to this, right? This is evil. I can't be a party of that. But it's so, considerate and just so thoughtful that you really looked out for so many other people as you left. Right. And so it's like you were helping them out. You're like, I'm out the door, but I want to help my team and have that level of honesty and integrity with them. And Chervelle, I'm wondering also if you can share with the audience, what we talked about in terms of the roots episode.
So I was at an early education provider for a while, and I wasn't there a long time at this point. I was relatively new. And so there was this D&I initiative happening, and they were like, we're all going to meet in the auditorium for a DEI exercise. And I thought, oh, okay. So as I approach, I hear the music from Roots playing. So I'm thinking, well, okay, I mean, they're not showing Roots, but I mean, maybe someone's just playing the music. I don't know why, but the music sounds like the Roots theme. Like the 1977 Roots, like not like the new Roots, like the old, like the original Roots. And I walk in, and the woman, the consultant that they hired, she was white, and she was the one that was leading this initiative. And I didn't stay long enough to try to understand what the point of that was. I don't know what we were going to learn from Roots. I really don't know what we were going to learn from that. For real.
And not realizing that was re-traumatizing. And so you're going to show something about us being traumatized as a people in an auditorium.
I mean,
just
at a level, like, would you show Schindler's List to
in an auditorium?
In an auditorium? Like, it was terrible. And because, like, we left, the handful of us that were there, we left, we walked out. Yeah. It was like what? However, how are we ever going to learn if you guys don't teach us? I'm not gonna have to relive my trauma for you to learn. You're going to have to go learn on your own.
Yeah. Yes.
You're gonna have to get on Beyonce's internet, and you're gonna have to Google and research, and you're going to have to figure out what you need to know. And I'm gonna have to relive my traumatic experiences in life for you to learn. What I really use my traumatic experiences for is to connect with other Black women and Black people in general, particularly young Black people who really need to understand that when they get in these organizations, because they're different than us, like they're not sticking around. Like we were never sold that retire dream.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I'm here for it. I'm here for them staying for 2 years, getting what they need and moving on. I'm here for it. Right. So, I don't want to have to teach white people what they've done to me in order for them to try to not do it again. Like,
exactly. And to own up to what you've done and what you have benefited from. Because we know, Chevelle, they all know what racism is, right? Yep. So why do I have to keep explaining? That's like a waste of time. And so being mindful of that, and also, as you said, the younger generation, they're not having it. They're not having it. Like, whatever, move on. I found something else. Yeah, so, Chevelle, I'm wondering too, because you said that after you retired, you just chilled. You're like, I need to rest, right? Yep. So resting, that was part of your healing journey. Can you share other things that were part of your healing journey as well?
I got back into the gym. I've always been athletic, but you know how you start working and you kind of get off track. Yeah. I love, and that was right before COVID, so I was able to really get back on track. I was able to start reading again, because one of the things I noticed too is like my brain, like I couldn't relax enough to read the way that I would. I was always like my mind was in 1,000 different directions. I couldn't relax. Yeah. So I picked up a lot of the books that I used to love and reread them. I just went for walks. Wow. Just connected with, some of the younger kids in my family. Just really took some time to do nothing.
Yes. And then reconnecting with nature, getting back into exercise, take care of your body, and also your spirit and your mind, reading. So you had the moment to just sit and do things that you really want to do that were healing. And it's also an escapism. So all of these things, think about it too, Chevelle. Being in that toxic work environment really robbed you of your joy. Like things that you love to do, it robbed you of it.
It changes your personality in a way because... I felt like, I've always been I've never been like gregarious, but I'm really like, I'm funny. I'm very witty. Right.
Yeah.
So
your tweets definitely are funny.
Thanks. So I kind of lost that, like, I didn't lose it, but I didn't feel like it. I didn't feel like joking around. I didn't feel like being my witty self. And part of my personality has always been around kind of bringing people together. Like, let's do these things together, right? And I just wanted to be by myself. I just wanted to kind of isolate, and I just wanted to heal, right? And so and then it rolled into the pandemic. Like, so I went on that like isolation journey, and then like we had to isolate,
right?
And then I was like, hey, I think I like this. But it was like it was decompressing from years and years of grinding and surviving. You shouldn't have to live life in survival mode.
Exactly. And Chevelle, not only you were able to reconnect to your joy, right? But so many Black women were not, and we're grinding. And when we internalize that perception that we're not good enough, or we need to work harder, now we're doing things that's jeopardizing our mental and our physical health. And so we have to be very mindful of that, because that can contribute to depression, anxiety, and a whole host of physical problems. That, there's a study that said that Black women are now dying at younger ages, and we're getting diseases at younger ages too. So we have to be very mindful of that. So Chevelle, as we're winding down, I'm wondering, what would you say to the audience
Mhm.
if they are sick and tired of being sick and tired about their jobs? What would you want them to know? What would you say to them?
I would say to you, I would say to them, you know, first of all, understand that it's a usual thing. It's not unusual what you're going through.
Okay.
I can line up 20 friends right now that could tell the same stories I'm telling. And I'm sure that a lot of the women on here, a lot of people on here could too. I think that
Yeah.
you have to begin to understand that you need a plan. I'm never going to
Yes.
tell someone just leave your job, because I'm not into toxic inspiration. Like,
Yes.
just leave, manifest a new job. And yeah, and then be evicted, right? So
And you're not even in their life, so you don't even know what they're dealing with. So you can't
no,
just say, just leave
no,
without a plan in place.
just quickly, that's work stuff. But
Yeah.
being a Black woman, a Black parent, a Black man in this world, there are other stressors that we have to deal with on a daily basis, right? That we deal
Yes.
with, and then the stress that our kids deal with, and then the stress that we
Yeah.
deal with, our kids are under stress. So all
Yeah.
of those things affect us in a way that we have to, when we show up at work.
Yeah.
What if my child just
Absolutely.
expressed to me that they experienced racism, and I have to show up like, hey, everybody, who has the donuts?
Right. Right.
So,
Right. Right.
so
Or
you know,
listen to what they say is stressful, and you're like, that's stress to you? Let
yeah,
me tell you about
okay,
stress.
yeah. So I think you have to have a plan, and you also
Right.
have to understand that the hooks that they put in you, the money hooks, because like you could leave a lot of money on the table. As I left 6 figures on the table.
Right.
You know, are you crazy? You left that? I did leave it. And so I
Yeah.
had to adjust my lifestyle. Not that I was out here balling, like buying stuff, but you know, it's different.
Yes.
You have to accept you have to decide what thing's the most important to you. At the end
Exactly.
of the
Your
day,
sanity.
your
Yeah.
sanity,
Your
and it's a
sanity or
shame
this
we have to
crazy
make that
job.
choice. It's a shame we have to make that choice, but you
It
have to
is.
decide, am I going to live, or am I going to let these people kill me? And that's what it comes
Ooh.
to, because
Ooh.
it's not fair to people who love you for you
It's
to not
not.
who they love, because these
Yes.
people are holding you emotionally hostage, right?
Yes.
And so it's, can you go do something else? Sure you can, but have a plan
Yeah.
to go do something else, and understand that you may have to take 2 steps back, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Understand that if you've tied yourself to your title,
Uh-huh.
untie yourself.
Right, right, right. Do not be defined by a job title. That is not who you are. And
No.
especially when you have to experience an emotional beatdown to be in that position. It's not healthy. Like you said, it's going to kill you. It's going to kill you physically. It's going to kill your spirit and
Yeah.
your sense of worth. It's
So
not
that
worth it.
mask that you
Yeah,
talk about, that mask has a
yeah,
lot of, right? It has a lot of what you have to realize. You sit down and say, what are my values, and what values have
um,
I adopted from this organization to survive here? And then you
yeah.
have to really understand what you've given up.
Oh, yes, exactly. What you're giving up and what you continue to give up, and how other people who love you are impacted by it.
Yep,
Because, we know that this stuff spills over to other areas of our lives.
it does.
And so just think about if you are in a family, or you in a
Yep,
relationship, if you have children, it's going to impact them too.
without
And
a
so,
doubt.
because they're not getting the full you, they're not
Nope.
getting the happy you, they're getting
Nope.
this leftover kind of beat down person. And
Yep.
so, thinking about them also, and also it's painful for them to see us struggle
Exactly.
or being unhappy or being abused.
Yep.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. So, Chevelle, can you tell the audience your Twitter handle? Because I love your tweets.
I'm Mrs. Bundrige on Twitter, and I'm Mrs. Bundrige on Instagram.
Awesome. And then you also talked about consulting. Can you share with the audience about that as well?
Yes, I'm working on a plan to start a consulting business so that I can come out and teach organizations how to really do a lot of things that they need to do from a people perspective. I'm also going to be available to have these types of discussions with folks and help them build plans around how to make moves.
Awesome. Awesome.
How to move.
And the best way for people to contact you would be through Instagram or Twitter?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. 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 And I'll put your information in the description section. I just want to say to the audience and to Chervelle, you have been an awesome panelist or awesome guest, right?
Oh,
I'm just thinking about the next panel, right? So I'm excited for our next panel about Stop Playing Diversity because what you talked about, yes, what you talked about really is that you are a straight shooter. Like you're going to tell the truth, right? And you're just going to lay it out. And it's enough of the games. Like we're not playing anymore about any of this stuff. We don't have time for it. Too many of us have been harmed and continue to be harmed. So we're not having it. So thank you, Chevelle, for speaking your truth, right? And sharing with so many different people about your experiences. And I also want to say to the audience, thank you for tuning in. Well, for Manifesting Healing Monday, this video and all the other videos supporting the healing of Black people individually and collectively are on my YouTube channel, Lifting As We Climb Consulting, Wellness Services. And next week we will not be together, I don't think, for July 4th.
Oh,
and we all have different,
coming up.
Yeah, we all have different, views about July 4th, but I'm going to take a break. And so again, I want to thank everyone for tuning in today. Take care. And remember, as Chervelle said, please be mindful of being in situations that affirm you, being in situations where you are not being harmed. And as she said, if you are being sick and tired of being sick and tired, as Fannie Lou Hamer said, please develop a plan to get out. Right? It's not worth your sanity or your health or the well-being of your family. Okay?
Absolutely.
So everyone, have a good rest of your day. And Chervelle, I'll be in contact with you soon.
Yep. Thanks, Shimani.
Okay. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.